Hi, welcome back to FutureFast. And today I have Dr. Krishna Kumar with me. And before I introduce or get the conversation started with him, for those of you who are here for the first time, uh, FutureFast is an effort to bring people to talk about what are they doing and how are they impacting on the future. And perhaps we could draw some pointers that could help us in running our own businesses or even our life. So, having said that, and for the rest of you who've been following FutureFast, hope you're enjoying the conversation, and I also hope that you will enjoy this conversation as well. With that, uh, Dr. Krishna Kumar is popularly known as KK, and so I will jump to uh, addressing him as KK. And KK, thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations on your publishing this book. It's wonderful. And this is what I want to talk about with you. And before that, can you please share your journey with us?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Nanju. It's been a pleasure meeting with you and running through this podcast. My journey in terms of, the journey, I'll try to link it to why or where we came in writing this particular book. Post my engineering, and also during the final years when I was doing my internship, I used to work with some of the small scale industries near in Visakhapatnam. That's where I did my engineering, Vizag. And then from there, after engineering, joined couple of small scale industries just to get a feel as to the ecosystem of what we today call it as the MSME industry or the small medium businesses ecosystem. I had a number of good experiences with the business owners. Most of them, they were technocrats, less of business people, more into developing products or services for the larger industries to whom these guys were working as ancillaries. Later on, I joined a larger organization called BHPV, Bharat Heavy Plate and Vessels. I worked for about 10 years in Delhi. That's where I did my post-graduation in management. And I had an experience of having worked both with the MSME sector or the small, medium businesses and the large corporates. I had a very interesting journey, 40 years. Different industries I have worked, from small scale manufacturing, large scale manufacturing, manufacturing for large projects, like it could be petrochemical project, the fertilizers, the power plants, etc. Small component manufacturers, maybe like the lamp components, lamp industries, industrial gases, setting up industrial gases factories, then into construction and contracting businesses. And then finally, I was last as a managing director with an international company, which is into EPCM services, or what we'll say engineering, procurement, and project consultancy management services. So I have had a good innings with a lot of these companies. And somewhere in between, I did dabble as a visiting professor for some of the colleges or business schools in Bangalore. More with your questions on the book, and I don't want to jump that gun now.
Sure. So, what triggered you to write building a business better? And what was the trigger to get started as an author?
Yeah, that was the title of the book is pretty interesting. Building a business better. I had many other titles also. The trigger to write that book was my interactions with huge number of MSME entrepreneurs. I did my Ph.D. basically in strategic management process and performance improvements in the MSME sector. That gave me an opportunity to meet with few thousands of entrepreneurs in the MSME sector, both in Bangalore, up North India. I used to have a lot of interactions with them as to why or their constraints, how did they start the businesses, why are they not growing the way the growth opportunities are in front of them, what's holding back their growth opportunity, their own thought of constraints, why they cannot grow. So when I used to conduct workshops on strategic business management for MSME industries, conduct workshops on strategic business planning, helping the MSME sector. Maybe thousands of business owners have attended my workshops. So having had the interactions, having conducted the workshops, I felt that there was a need for a very simple book which could give a 360 degrees of business idea or a business management as a subject which the MSME business owners can read, implement, and enhance their business. So that's the reason. Otherwise, generally, they don't go to read big fat books. What we do it either in our business schools.
Right. Well, KK, in your 40 years of vast experience and fairly international as well, not just within India, and even in India, you've lived and worked in different parts of India as well.
Yeah.
Do you want to recount people who were influential in making you the person you are, in getting the way you think today, and perhaps also all that who have influenced you to even get down to writing this book?
Yep. I had some really good colleagues and good managers. So the basic reason what it happened or somebody becomes better is having some really good managers who help you grow, help you learn, and then become a better person yourself. So during my journey, I had interactions with good number of senior managers, both in the public sector domain of the government of India undertakings, and also in the private sector. And during the process, when I was working with different colleagues, interacting with vendors, because I had as a manager and as a senior executive in the organizations, I had the opportunities of interact with number of vendors. So I would normally see what is the bright spots they had, why did they start in the business, what made them go ahead with a particular business A, and why did they not think a business B. So a lot of interactions with them really helped me to understand the entire reason why people go in for starting up small industries, trying to scale up the small industries, and that particular influence, the struggles, the reasons why, because most of the MSME sector people, they cut down or they remind themselves more as technocrats and not as business persons. The reason why I went on or talk to, I've been addressing a number of business associations also, that the MSME business owners, or sometimes even the startup founders, because I had interactions with a number of startups in Bangalore. And when I used to go and meet the MSME business owners right on Hyderabad, Mumbai, Delhi, Faridabad zones, the Noida industries, I have seen that they're really happy with whatever the products they have. They're so much concentrated on the technical aspects of the development that they forget that there is a business aspect for the business itself. unless until they don't get that business feeling into the industry what they are operating, they will not be able to grow. So if I look at a particular graph, 10 years, 15 years, a small industry struggles to be at 10 crore level rupees or 20 crore levels, or maximum they say that we'll touch up 50. Very few or a very small percentage of organizations really cross the 100 mark, and even the medium scale industries, very small percentage cross the 1,000 marks and going for becoming or taking an IPO. So that is where we see that missing middle in the business.
And you do you want to talk about how did you arrive at this 12 chapters? What was uh, uh, is there any particular logic? I know you're very structured in your thinking, so perhaps it helps to give our listeners a view to the way you think and the way you've structured these 12 chapters.
Yeah. So I started with basically the subject called as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So a person who has a journey to becoming a business person or starting an industry, starting a trading. So here I'm not looking, when I'm using the word industry, it's not limited to something like a factory. It can be anything. It's purely a commercial transactions. If you're looking at it, could be a trading, it could be services, it could be people, the startups of the IT startups which come into it. So when I use the word industry in a generalized term,
Generic sense, yes.
Yeah, but then everyone is industrious and trying to setting up something to grow.
Correct. In fact, some of the cases you're approaching also has apps and app development company or a business who engages their consumer through an app and such. So it's not necessarily limited to somebody who is into manufacturing business. It is essentially for an entrepreneur who's got ideally a product or a solution to any customer. Not necessarily only a B2B also. In fact, some examples you're talking about also addresses consumers. So it is B2B as well as business to consumer and not limited to manufacturing. It is also catering to software application service companies as well.
Yeah, certainly. So because the book really addresses the small issues. If you take any of the business people in the industry today, they don't have time to read a big 400 pages, 500 pages, maybe for them to understand a Kotler or a Dell or who have you, a David Akers, or the old days, what we used to read of the Prahalads and Gary Hamels and what have you. It's really difficult for them to understand. More the business books, what you get from the West, all have the Western industries. They give you a lot of examples of what's happening in the US or in the Europe. So in my 40 years journey, I have seen so many industries in India who all pass through these issues. So I said, let me use the Indian examples, the Indian industries, because the people are able to relate to it. So if I tell somebody that this is what happens in Pune Industrial Estate, or this is what happens in Faridabad Industrial Estate, or this is what happened at Balabgarh, it's easier for them to understand, oh, I know that particular industry, or I know that particular system. So that is where the connect comes in. And this entrepreneurship journey, how it helps a person to start up an entrepreneurship. More importantly, there is a chapter on called as a business myopia, which I picked up during the old school days when the business school days reading of Theodore Levitt on marketing myopia, which almost is 50 or 60 years old. So if I took up that particular thing, made it into business myopia, referring to Ted Levitt, and then also giving an example how organizations should pivot their business. In fact, look at working on a core of their particular business and understand the entire core. People don't, when I have met with so many industries, they don't understand the entire area of the particular business what they have picked up. They become so much in their vertical that the adjacencies which they can add to grow, enhance their business, develop their business, they forget it. So when I used to interact, I help the car industries. There have been a situation where there was a fire protection company which was purely into fire protection. And as we went about adding the other businesses in the entire adjacencies, if I have to use Chris Box book on the core business, so what we are mentioning is the Zook's book, what mentions is understanding the adjacencies. So the particular business which was into simply purely fire protection went on to becoming a complete life safety. So that resulted in, if you're bidding for say 25 lakhs rupees worth of contracts or 30 lakhs rupees worth of contract, they suddenly jumped at bidding contracts worth 5 crores, 10 crores. So from a number X, 10x it used to become. So an organization which looks at not only the total addressable market, but what is the total value addition you are going to do into the in the particular addressable market, if that also multiplies, your revenues grow. So that's where we are looking at understanding or growing beyond the business myopia. Business people also miss understanding the business planning area.
Go correct. Ahead. In fact, what I found it interesting in your book is that you these things don't go like a business book from chapter to chapter. You narrated it through a story.
Yeah.
So so are they obviously perhaps they refer some characters you have met in life because they also refer to the specific business use case. But are you modeling on the specific characters, or it's you just made it fictional, but you borrow different contexts? So how have you made it? Of course, apart from yourself.
So, say actually, the names and the industries, I would say, they're referred as fictional in the book, but they are some sort of by coincidence, there could be related industries. Some of the names, by chance, they could be the business owners could be still doing pretty well, they're existing well. So, different industries I have picked up, the different business people whom I used to interact, and have taken their particular problems and used it more on the broader canvas, which becomes easier for
contexts have come from your life interactions, but you just use fictional names in those contexts to bring out the better understanding for the readers. That's correct?
Yeah, because if you look at the small, medium business owners, they find it difficult to read a book like maybe for us, we would have read the strategy books, so much of it. But then for them, they have very limited time to read. So I wanted them to make it as a personal one-to-one type of reading, more like a story. It's easier to read, relate as a story. So it's written like more in a very simple English and story.
Right. It is very much a storytelling. In fact, I would urge that, even this reading as such is coming down. So perhaps you should also try to make it an audiobook, because even I, for one, have stopped reading, or mostly my reading is reduced significantly because I've moved to listening to books. So I only read books like this, when they are not yet available on audiobooks. There are times I even wait for the audiobook version to come up. So given that, perhaps you should also give it a try to make it an audiobook as well.
Wonderful.
So
Thank you, Nanju. That's it's a good advice. Yep.
So, we'll just do a quick uh, thing for our listeners that you've covered from entrepreneurship work, from addressing entrepreneur story. That's where the story starts. And though the content reads like business challenges, business myopia, business planning, the whole narration is not in the context of the content titles. They are in the context of a story.
Yeah.
So the chapters are, though talking about, I mean, if somebody wants to say that, okay, I want to go to business strategy, it is starting at 103, it's not a definition of business strategy. So it is in the context of the story and how the business strategy is employed, of course, with the intervention. And here in this context, the character Dr. KK is the KK we are talking to here. So,
Just
so that's the nice way of stitching. So somewhere I was just thinking that perhaps
yeah.
you should also have had a chapter name with what is talked. I mean, like you say, business strategy, but chapter name could have also been something from the story point of view. Why did you decide purely to make it like this? Because there's the story there. I mean, you are the story. As you read each chapter, you also are curious about how it will, how it's going to change, or what happens in that context, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so you try to stitch that through, but perhaps it would have helped, or you deliberately kept it only to this. You wanted to make it more seemingly also business, while story is only from a narrative point. Was that deliberate, or why is that?
Yeah. I did not want to take it as a complete, it should not be like a mystery book in the business context,
Right.
taking the from it. So if I wrote so many of these chapters, made them as one particular singular stories for each one, and then trying to link right from their earlier days. So if you look at, there is one medium scale. Typically, if you read the book, there's a medium scale industry. There is a small scale industry, and there's a micro scale industry. So
Entrepreneur, yeah.
so if you look at that, the entire MSME spectrum is given a particular importance, and each one, what are their particular struggles, and how do they use a strategy for their businesses. So the medium scale industry, which is there into dynamic engineering, if I have to use that word, as to how they have to look at building different business scenarios, different building how the what if scenarios. When you are talking of a strategy, the good old, if I remember, 30, 40 years back, when 30 years back, when I did our management education, we used to, we used to use the strategic planning, the 5-year planning, etc. The thought was regression analysis, extrapolation. Today, what is yesterday is not valid today, and what is today is not going to be valid tomorrow. So I just cannot use yesterday's tools to project something for tomorrow. Situations change. So when in the business context, we have to look at different scenarios. At least you have to be innovative to think, what if, like, nobody anticipated COVID, but then COVID gave an opportunity for so many industries to think differently. So that has really given some organizations a good edge to really take off better, really get into a better growth graphs, and some of them really doomed. So they have been, the good side of both the issues.
Right.
I did not continue the entire story, because how, it becomes like more like a storybook. So each chapter, an issue, and pick it up, done with it.
Right. And also, it has a lot of this self-help book component,
Yeah.
right? Your it could have also been some kind of a ready reference book, right? So basically, there are 2-3 different components to it, right? One side it is a business book, other side it's like a ready reckoner for perhaps the technocrats, as you say it, as you put it, right? Because they are more focused at building a product or specifically uh, uh, in that line of work they come from, but not from an overall business perspective.
Yeah.
And also a storytelling narrative, and also in fact one underlying thing in the book I also see is that you are also in a subtle way communicating how to uh, engage a mentor or an advisor, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
In every context, every chapter, there is this Dr. KK, which is you, of course. But what is important is that, uh, uh, I'm sure being advisor, mentor, interacting with a lot of startups, you agree that most of the times, unfortunately, most startup founders come with the only expectation that if I talk to him, will he get me access to money?
Mm,
Right? I mean,
yeah. Yeah.
unfortunately, that has been the biggest motivation for any founder of MSMEs to seek help externally, is that that person get me access to capital?
Yeah. Yeah.
And here, perhaps, I think ideally, one subtle communication that you sent it in this book is that this is how you can actually seek help from somebody who can navigate you through your business success, right? Or to ensure you build the company. And it's just not about there is actually, I don't know, did I miss that? But I don't see a point of about raising capital or fundraising. You is that
No.
aspect here? Or
No.
did I
No.
miss out? I don't think it was there.
There is a chapter on finance management.
No, I saw that, but
Yeah.
I don't think I came across
No.
anything about fundraising, raising equity capital. None of that.
No. I haven't. I did not dwell on that because the business owners they have to explore their opportunities,
Right.
or otherwise it would be too much of. See, each of the book, instead of 200 odd pages, it would have become a 400-page volume if I would have gone into the depth of everything. I just wanted the business owners to really feel that they are missing good business information in their life.
Hmm.
And it's the if they're able to change their mentality, and then they say that look, seek small helps. They don't, and unfortunately they think that getting a business coach or a mentor is pretty expensive. No, it is not expensive. You need to have real good experienced people who can guide them properly and say that this is what it is and this is how you can proceed with that. If you look at that particular chapter on finance, not raising the capital, I really feel for my friends in the MSME sector that the people in the finance business, maybe like the chartered accountants or whoever have been involved, don't help them to understand cash flows, don't help them to understand proper type invoicing, don't try to help them in pricing. The MSME people being so much focused in their technology side of work that they forget the smaller elements and they lose out. So they require the small helps, and these guys can do really great wonders. Imagine that today, if they are giving a 6.5 crore MSME industries, providing an employment opportunity to 30 odd crore people, and almost contributing 40%, 45% in terms of GDP. There can be really the force multipliers.
Correct.
and they are so much dependent on unwanted support that they forget that they require emotional support.
That is very true. In fact, unlike in the very developed economies, right, like in US or Europe,
Yeah.
where MSMEs are almost 70% of the GDP.
Yeah.
And India is less than 50% of the GDP, whereas for the sheer size of our population and diversity of population with even resources spread across India, we should have been more MSME focused rather than large industry focused.
Yeah.
So I think that is where it is really surprising that we should have been more MSME driven economy, as in, instead of 40-50% of the economy, we should have been 75% or 80% of the economy.
Yeah.
So that is where I think that's another area where books like yours would be so instrumental in strengthening the MSME businesses, because our MSME survival rates are also so poor. Right, the reports which says startup survival rate is very low, MSME survival rate is equally bad, because of whole lot of reasons, right? And of course, you are obviously addressing a significant component of it here. So, how do you engage? I mean, of course, your stories will give our listeners and audience an understanding of how you engage your your clients, if you will, the MSME founders. But uh, coming from, can you talk about how do you advise these founders to engage advisors? Because I think that is one area where, see, here in the stories, it is uh, uh, very organic, because you want to communicate them to the point of taking that value. So it comes out very organically. But, we all know that that is not as smooth, because most times founders don't understand what they really want to take value out of. So can you give some direction, some thoughts, some experience in how should these founders take advantage of uh, the advisors, the mentors, or even which is obviously what is leading you to resort to writing a book, but how should they be approaching it?
Yeah. So generally, the
Only thought
business
I
owner,
had is that should have been one chapter here on that. That is what I thought, because uh, I think you how to make sure this Dr. KK to give all the right input. How to get that apart from
yeah,
the book? How do you advise them?
the business owners, they can really access senior industry people and talk to them, engage with them, because you get a huge number of people working in different or connections or networking. If I use the word networking, when they do the networking, they will come in contact with senior people in the different industries, different associations. Today, if you look at it, we have the Birdi Industrial Association or the Pinya Industrial Association, FKCCI, BCIC. In these particular associations, there will be some senior people where the business owners should be able to engage people to help them come out of their issues. So maybe a little while earlier, you were mentioning about raising capital. Most of the business owners think that if they raise capital, they can do business better. No, that need not. That's not the actual issue which they really face. Like, say, for example, if I say that if you give me 1 crore loan, I am going to multiply my business into 5 crore. No, it doesn't happen that way, because entire the businesses, processes and systems, the business plan itself will be missing. So if you say that, okay, now I'll give you 20 lakh crores to the MSMEs, have the MSMEs really doubled in their businesses? So the question is, how can they need to really go talk to senior people in the different associations, or the associations can engage senior people like the character what is called as Dr. KK there, to address the people in the association, and then maybe they can engage them partly on an hourly basis, or on a particular subject basis, or on a particular, please help us in getting us a HR policy, help us in having an organizational the sales and business development policy. The typically what I have also seen, observed with the MSMEs, where not many of them even know the number of quotations what they would have given. 3 months pass, I would have quoted to a company X. I would have forgotten, because I just don't have the system. So we need to help them to know, integrate IT, make the MSMEs more digitally viable. So they need to talk on these small issues, and they can do wonders, because these guys are committed technocrats. They have a passion. They just need some inputs. So they have to seek those inputs, and they can create wonders.
Well, for the benefit of the readers, there are a lot of templates that you can actually use out of this book. Not just the finance. In fact, the Shinzo model. I think I remember seeing this also in your business GAN that you used to share. So I urge you to follow him on LinkedIn and other social handles shared here, because he keeps sharing small infographics, if you will, which are very informative and which are by itself very useful for business management. So, in fact, when you first mentioned that you published the book before I got hold of the book, I was hoping to see a lot of those things here, but it was completely different from a point of narration and all that. But actually, the infographics are very powerful. So I really urge the listeners to follow KK in the handles given below this podcast, so that you can take advantage of that. And they are absolutely free, while you have to pay and buy this book. So I really urge you to. But do pick up the book, because not that infographics are not there. They're also sparingly used here, but there are a whole lot of things that are helpful. Even I think how to interview. In fact, that is one area where most people falter big time. It all comes down to what kind of people you hire defines what kind of company you will build. So I think that is it's 40 years of experience. So I think you're going to get it cheap. So please go ahead and pick up this book. And I also he's very reachable, very much available. You can reach, you can communicate, you can engage. So please do reach. All the coordinates are given below. And is there something that you thought you left out in this book, KK, that you wish you had? Like I said, that I wish you had put one section about how to engage Dr. KK, right? From a point of engaging a right advisor, a good. So is there anything you wish you had missed out? You wish you had it in this book?
Maybe that particular element. Then it would be saying that doing an overkill for the for a simple, But then interestingly, in the HR section, by experience, because I had not only that, I would have met some thousands of MSME owners, but then in my career of having seen so many different industries, and maybe few thousands of people would have worked with me in different industries. The interviewing is a big issue, and people don't even know how to do a proper interview. So that's where I have used some of these words. And why I brought in the Shinzo model also was people to understand simple elements of operational excellence. Because today people think operational excellence is a different animal. I said, no, if you're able to understand how can I do an improvement, the incremental improvement on a daily basis, I would have had 300 times more improvement in the end of the year. So, and few other important elements which I highlights in the book is about innovation. But people don't understand how do you do
Correct.
innovation.
Right.
Is it simply is modification innovation? So I just gave them small brief understandings, then helping them how to do a business breakthrough. And if you look at the last chapter, I addressed few pages on the stress element of the business owners, which you don't find people writing articles, or which people don't write books on. But then I said, okay, let me dedicate few pages on the basic elements of the stress the poor MSME business owner goes through. If we are able, how do we help them to reduce the stress? We cannot say that eliminate the stress, but then how can we reduce the stress? Because end of the day, like if we say farmers or another task, the MSME business owners or the Aishwarya Datas. So, or we say that the wealth builders, we use the word. And the every 10 days of business mantras, maybe in few months' time, I'll come out with another book called as the Succeed Business with Business Mantras. So there it will be more detailed explanations, each of them. Yeah.
So, actually, in that sense, it's very thought through. It's not that, okay, I'll not talk about the chapter which I wanted to have. I wanted you to write, but
Go ahead.
I think this is complete and also very apt here, because it's so right that typically the founders will have an accountant. They don't approach finance from a finance management. They approach it from an accounting point of view.
Yeah.
So these are two different perspectives altogether, which is so important in building a business. Accounting is very critical, but without a view to the finance management, this can really hurt your business. So that is what you bring about, which is fantastic. And even from the people management side, what you're talking about is that they always approach resources from a point of compliance, right? But not from a point of resource which is a sense of asset, which is what in the IT industry, people look at this as a soft asset, right? Which is what actually builds the real asset. So today that thought is coming into that is there in the IT industry, but not as much in the small medium businesses per se, and not as much in the manufacturing businesses. So when people approach in the engineering business or the target, what you mentioned as a technocrat, they don't really look at it in that sense. So that is where this becomes so critical. So I think it's a great effort, and I understand you also given thought to make sure that it is not too bulky, because it's so important that only right communication goes in, and you try to take away a lot of noise out of it, and also delivered it in a very story manner, so that consumption becomes easy from a reader point of view. So it's a good content, and do go through, and the link to buy this book on Amazon, and where else is it available?
They're on Subhash Publishers, Amazon, and
Okay, the links are down below for the readers and listeners, and those who watch this as a video. So please feel free to go look up those links and pick up this. And also, I would say that if you have somebody who's starting a company, feel free to pick it up and gift it, and they will find it very useful and handy as well. So,
Yeah.
KK, thank you so much for
Thank you.
doing this and also doing this. I think it's going to be useful for so many people, and hope uh, uh, this will contribute to better success of MSME.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Nanjip.
Thank you
It's
so
great.
much,
Yeah.
KK.
A good MSME is a good proposal for half the unemployment problem can be solved with a stronger MSME.
So, as a closing statement, what do you see the future of MSME in India? How do you see that?
Yeah. My thing is, if we are able to help them understand business management, if we are able to help them understand technology, MSME today, what we talk of 6.5 crores, maybe in years' time, we should touch 10 crores, or we'll say 100 million MSME businesses. 100 million MSME businesses would straight away give you half the population in terms of employment opportunity. And that particular employment opportunity, and some of the medium scale industries, even if 1,000 of them go on to IPO or at least structure or move towards listing in the MSME browsers, there'll be so much huge amount of wealth generation. For us to touch the 10 trillion mark, MSMEs will be a huge contribution.
Oh, yeah, I think the target is almost to get to 20 trillion, right? So it is important to get there. But yes, right now I think 5 trillion of 2025 and 7. There seems to be some linear thought as far as government is concerned. But yeah, we need to be really non-linear in the way we approach this. And thank you so much, KK, for all that you're doing, and also look forward to the new book that you talked about,
The
and
business.
also more conversations around building a business better.
Yep.
With that, thank you so much, and please do share this podcast among other people you think who are working towards building a business, and also do share this. With that, thank
Thank
you. Take care.